Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey everybody, good evening, Militia Man and Crew. It's October 25th. Welcome to the show. We're going to get started on some dinar related topics and you're going to love it. But first, a word from our video sponsor tonight, Noble Gold Investments, who makes protecting your wealth simple. Gold's gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere and prices keep climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get a step-by-step guidance, transparency pricing, and US-based service from a team that's handled over 2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. So visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. Hey, good evening, everybody. Just going to jump in, and this is what I want to talk about, okay? I'm going to try to be as simple as possible, but there's going to be a few things that I think are taking place that a lot of people are not probably aware of. But I'll try to keep it basic. Look, Iraq is quietly moving into the modern financial world. I think we all know that. I mean, I don't know if well, I guess it is kind of quietly. We believe it's loud in our faces, but globally, it really isn't. But investment-wise, you can see the powerhouse data that we have in Patreon. Super Samson always brings in the quality news, and I get to go over it. And it really is fascinating because if you go into Patreon, you can grab those articles, and then you guys can do some research on your own. But that's what I do. I go in, I grab articles, and then I study those articles, and I see the past 10 to 15 years of my life focused in on what I truly own. And one of the things that I really believed in, and I think you guys know this, is that I found gold working at a gold mine at $275 an ounce. And I knew from learning how to read technical analysis that once certain patterns change, it's time to buy. And that was around $400 gold. And gold's about $4,100 at the moment. It's had a high of 4,300, for instance. It's important to know what you own. And one of the reasons why I bought into the dinar is because I did my research. And so for those of you that haven't been around a long time, so be it. And those that you have been around a long time, bear with me, you guys. But you guys, it'll bring some confidence, I believe. Anyway, Iraq is quietly moving into the modern financial world. Three big things are happening at the same time. Iraq wants to join the Bank of International Settlements, which is the club of central banks. So the BIS has a club, if you will. It's not necessarily a mandatory situation with it, but bottom line is they have a club, and it's very powerful. Iraq is planning to drop 3 zeros from the dinar, a currency redesign, so we know about that. Iraq is launching a digital dinar. We know that from Al-Alaq. It's like digital cash run by the central bank. Okay, just to keep it simple. So we're going to look at how these connect with oil, new technology, and global banks. So number one, Iraq and the Bank of International Settlements. All right, the club. The Bank of International Settlements is where? It's in Switzerland. So keep that in mind. It helps central banks work together. That's what they do. They work as a team, and when they go into marketplaces, trust me, if they all move into a market, they have an impact. And just like we learned from the gold situation, gold is at 4,100 plus an ounce, right? Why? It's because central banks buy gold for a hedge and to support the value of the currencies. Okay. That's one component of it, just one, but that's how it is. Iraq's central bank governor met with the Bank of England in September 2025 and asked for help to join. So he goes, Central Bank of Iraq, Al-Alaq, you guys have seen it, we've talked about it, goes to the Bank of England. And then one of the topics that was potentially getting the nod to be able to join, or an invitation, if you will, to join the Bank of International Settlements. So if Iraq joins, it will share data and follow global rules. Isn't that what Iraq's been doing, trying to follow global rules? Yeah, it 100% is trying to find international standards. I mean, Oliver Wyman, all these different people are involved. It's been a massive web. So it says this makes other countries trust Iraq. So by doing so, and that nod is giving a nod to investors around the world, and hence you see all the investment coming in, is because of those actions. They're subtle, but they have a really big impact. Okay, number 2 is dropping 3 zeros or a redenomination. Okay, so be very careful with this particular part because, look, a redenomination, there's no real value change. Just straight redenomination, there's none. But what you have to take into consideration is that what Iraq is not at a real effective exchange rate. And I'll get into that just a little bit later, but bottom line is we all know that Iraq's at 13.10 and to $1. And obviously if they were just to lop, for instance, which a lot of people think is what they're talking about, but it's not really what they're talking about. They're talking about the exchange rate because they have to create value. The central bank, these central banks all know that Iraq's 13.10 is effectively, I'll just call it a placeholder, for instance. Okay, and it's to be able to use all the tools that they do in the background because they're using other foreign currencies and they're using the dinar, the dollar, they're using the euro, they're using the yen, and we have proof of that. And so they're using other foreign currencies to do the things that they're doing. But in the meantime, the citizens, they feel comfortable. They're using all their tools that they're using because they got foreign reserves, et cetera, to be able to do trade. And they've been able to maintain low inflation. I mean, we've seen things as low as 0.8%. Okay, IMF likes it below 3%, 3% or below. And for lengths of time, Iraq's accomplished that. Okay, so ultimately just removing 3 zeros from the currency doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not even going to really get into this because they're not just going to, somehow take off 3 zeros off the currency. But what they'll do is they'll take 3 zeros or these zeros from the exchange rate. And if you take the math and divide it by 1 or into 13.10, vice versa, either way, reciprocal, you're going to find that it's very low. So just call it 0.007, for instance, okay? But anyway, that's what a redenomination is. It's like a reverse split in a stock. So I'm not going to get into that because you guys should probably know that. But that's what it is. But ultimately, that's not their goal. That's not their goal at all. And I'm going to get into a key word that Super Samson brought in. And I just found that I didn't have this in my email, but the bottom line was it's an extension to an article that may or not be out there in the public. But the bottom line is we're going to move on. But I just wanted to clarify that this is part of the information that you may find when you're out searching for information, okay? The digital dinar, okay? What is it? Central bank digital currency, okay? It says Iraq will launch a digital version of the dinar in sometime shortly, okay? That's what they're effectively saying. They can say anytime, but they're not going to ever tell you exactly when. They're just going to give you a reference point. And so what will it do? It will work like cash. It'll work like cash, but it'll be on phones or computers. Digital banking. What's their goal? Reduce cash use. So if they reduce cash, it's like taking money out of the system, which supports the value of the currency. in my view. It stops money smuggling, makes payments faster and safer. It will run on a secure technology. For instance, some of the technologies I've talked about will be like Hedera and Ripple. Okay, those are the things that I've talked about. You guys can look these things up. What they mean, their technologies. Okay, they may have the tokenized, they may have a tokenized sound, they may have a cryptocurrency sound, but ultimately, Hedera, for instance, is called a hash graph. It's a technology. It has utility, just like Ripple, for instance. Ripple XRP has speed for transactions, for invoicing. They can move money fast instead of like being at 10 miles an hour like Bitcoin, for instance. This is just my spitball. XRP runs at about 1,500 miles an hour. Hedera, for instance, has real data to secure payments and know your customer and all the things that come with that security, stability, accounting. It's 10,000 miles an hour effectively. That's how fast and secure they are. That's why Zane Cash uses them. That's why millions of people in Iraq are using Zane Cash. So on another item, it says oil and new technology, which is oil and new technology. It's kind of like the quiet tone that they're experiencing. They call it a quiet pilot, for instance. So the Kurdish oil, for instance, that we know about has been moving 230,000 barrels per day, and it started flowing again in September 2025 through the Cyan pipeline to Europe, right? Okay, so what they're doing is there's a component to that because that trade is going to go into euros. It's going to go from Iraq and it's going to be sold through companies to Europe, right? So it's got a European component, a euro component to it. And keep in mind, well, what is the euro? Isn't it one of the SDR basket currencies? It surely is. SDR, which is the IMF. If you don't know about that, you can Google it, SDR valuation on, search it, and you'll find out what a unit price is. Okay, and that's going to tell you something similarly to what the Arab Monetary Fund has an Arab accounting dinar talks about, right? They talk 3 times, they're very specific, and that's for regional trade for Iraq's trading partners. It's powerful, but that's stability, because what does the IMF think of the euro? It is a percentage of the basket of currencies. It's stability. Okay, keep that in mind. It goes on, and to me, what we learned so far is that Iraq has told us that they were the historical deal. They talked about being in the Swiss company working to sell the oil. So we had the tripartites, IOCs, Kurdistan, Baghdad, move oil, deal done. Who's selling it? A Swiss company. And we believe that one of the Swiss companies, it could be a varied, but they're very limited, varied. But we have the idea that, check this out. There's a Swiss company called Vitol, VITOL. It sells this oil. A platform called VAKT, is testing digital oil records like digital receipts, digital, that reeks of new technologies. The oil may be the secret test for, this is, spitballing here, using digital dinar to pay for oil. Well, how do we know about that? Again, you got to realize is that Al-Alaq went to Switzerland, which is Bank of International Settlements. Swiss companies are tokenizing commodities to do trade. And what kind of technologies are they using? Those are things you haven't really talked about. It isn't just push the button. It's about interconnectivity. I've been saying this for at least a year or 2 years. Using a digital dinar for pay for oil, recording sales on a secure system, settling trades in seconds using something similar to like XRP, because XRP moves so fast. It's cheap, has low costs, for transactions. It does it in seconds in large scale. Okay, scale is big. I think about it. How much is a boat with 600 or a ship with 650,000 barrels of oil or 1 million barrels of oil on it? The amount of money that the security comes from how fast they can move the money and how legitimate the transaction is. Hedera moving at 10,000 TPS, whatever it is part of that system. And so where are they going to get the liquidity for all this money, right? Instantaneously. Well, the idea is, well, the United States has what they call USDC, USDT, and they have RLUSD, for instance. They have those. RLUSD, Ripple, United States dollar, has the ability to offer 4% yield on that. Makes sense, right? If you have fiat currency and you're going to bridge the gap and you're going to convert fiat into RLUSD, you would consider like, well, I can make money off parking my money and having that liquidity. And think about this, you're going to hear about JP Morgan talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum as being able to collateralize those coins or those entities for loans. It's interesting. It's very interesting. So anyway, why did I bring up the yen and Japan? Japan's been in Iraq for a long period of time. It has been for, I think, since 2012. And what are they doing? They're doing reconstruction efforts. They have all kinds of different things. But today, I believe that there was a ribbon cutting by Al Sudani in respect to JGC, which is a refinery. I think that they put in $4.8 billion into this refinery. And what are they going to do? This project is going to save Iraq, I believe it's annually about $5 billion a year. All that money goes into the treasury. That supports the value of their currency. It goes into their reserves. That's what it does. So the reserves grow. So if their reserves grow, the value of the currency effectively strengthens. That's how it works. So it says Japan's big investment in Basra. Japan just finished a $4.8 billion project, the Basra oil refinery, October 25th, 2025. It can now make cleaner gasoline and diesel. It's called the Euro V standard. Okay. This will what? Save Iraq about $5 billion a year in less fuel imports. It adds $8.9 billion in new exports, creates jobs and income. Okay, so to the topic of a real effective exchange rate and currency stability. Well, we all know that a REER equals a real effective exchange rate. It measures how strong the dinar is compared to other countries, adjusted for prices. After dropping zeros, Iraq may use the Arab accounting dinar. That's what I've been thinking, right? And it makes sense. And I'm telling you, this comes from research that it makes nothing but sense because Iraq is part of the Arab Monetary Fund, has never left. So if they were to use the AAD, Arab accounting dinar, okay, it's a derivative of the SDR basket because all the regional countries are part of that are in that league, right? If you go to the AMF and you ask what the value of their currency is, it says 3 times SDR, which is the IMF unit cost related to specific currencies, all of the big 5. And if you go to 3 times SDR, what they publish is, I think today, it's right around 1.36, right? Okay. You've got to remember the AAD is not for retail. It's for regional trading partners. And what you're going to hear about something when they say institutions, when you hear about JP Morgan talking about doing crypto trade and collateral for loans, having cryptos, they can do these deals, but it's for institutions. Institutions aren't retail. So make sure you understand that and do your own research on that. So anyway, the AAD, believe it or not, AAD 1 is, as of the 24th, which is yesterday, if you do 3 times SDR basket was $4.086. Does it change daily? It does when they trade. That's a fact. So you have to go to the IMF website and you can check that out, what a 3 times SDR actually represents. Okay, but keep in mind, it's not for retail, but I'm not discounting it. It gives you a benchmark of what the potential is of the currency. Now, I say potential. So we don't know what the exact rate is, and I'm not calling that as a rate, but I'm telling you that the strength of the currency based off fundamentals is phenomenal, because Iraq is not just dealing with the past era of just oil. It has non-oil revenues. They're reducing the note count. They're actually increasing their non-oil revenue streams. They have all these different things. So you have to have a smile on your face, because it's that big. It's that big. You have to pay attention to it. Okay. What does the SDR basket include? It includes the United States dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, British pound. So when they talk about keeping a peg, for instance, if you remember the deputy governor in Washington said, we're not going to float the dinar. But they also said that, but the plan of the removal of the zeros is still ongoing. And then we have an article that attests to that from Al-Alaq. So anyway, keep that in mind, because what that is stability. So if you're not going to float a currency, you're going to try to peg it, means it's going to be stable. Because I've been saying this for years. They're going to need to have a managed or pegged float, not pegged currency, or a managed float, if you will. But there's so many definitions, you guys really have to pay attention to it. But the bottom line is that they're not going to float the currency. It's more likely going to be something similar to a managed peg, right? And that means that all in all, basically what it does is that it keeps the dinar stable and fair in trade. Having that relationship with the SDR basket will keep the dinar stable. That's what they do in the region, and keeps it fair. And they have the IMF approval because that's what they do. And so it's really actually a key component, because the currency can fluctuate, not too strong, not too weak, right? But the cool thing is that when these euro trades take place, that's tied to the SDR basket. The AMF is a derivative of that, and so that's why their currencies are so stable, and that's why they use it. Many countries, Qatar, all kinds of different countries use that as a benchmark, if you will, okay? And so it doesn't get too strong, it doesn't get too weak, and I'll move on. The technology stack, the people that this is kind of new wording, technology stack. What is a simple version of that? What this means for Iraq: more trust for world banks. That's what they're looking for, is they're looking for trust in the world banks. And the trust is like what we've seen with the euro, the European countries approving or publicly talking about it finally, correspondent banks effectively, and so they can do international trade. And we have some big things that are coming up. We have, remember the licensing, for instance, we talked about. Businessmen and traders, they need to have their licenses, or they're not going to be able to trade. They're going to be locked out. Banking invoices and accounting have to be taken care of. They're talking about digitally. When they're talking about digital, we're talking about electronic payments, you guys. Okay, what do they have? They have strong reserves. Iraq has strong reserves. They have about 100 billion, but that's growing. They haven't told us how much it's grown just yet, because they can add things. For instance, they could just go in and say, hey, all of a sudden we've clawed back $200 billion from corruption, right? Maybe we could go a little higher than that. Okay, so but that's part of the reserves. But all the non-oil revenues, and for instance, the Japanese connection with JGC is going to save them $5 billion a year. Didn't we just read where Iraq was not buying $5 billion or $4 billion worth of natural gas from them anymore? They've reduced it down to $1 billion. Well, all those savings add up into reserves. That's important, because it all does support a real effective exchange rate. So, final point, this is not a sudden change. This plan's been ongoing for, I don't know, some people say 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. Bottom line is, it hasn't happened yet. But what we're seeing is they're reaching the final steps, because you can see that quickening coming in. You really can. So everything that is connected, this is what we have that are connections. We have oil, Kurdistan region, boom, oil going out. Not to mention everywhere else. You have digital records, you have e-signatures. You have the state taking only cash, okay? Talked about the digital dinar. Who did that? Al-Alaq did that. Al-Alaq talked about launching a digital dinar in early 2025. But they're talking about new technologies now. And they're talking about all the e-commerce and all these different things. I told you about the Agora project, which is from the Bank of International Settlements, the NOD, all that stuff. And all this new technology, the oil moving from Cyan. Those guys, the Swiss, are doing what? Digital commodities, digital payments, instantaneous type stuff. Iraq's talking about new currency. New currency. What you're going to find here before I finish is we're going to talk about an interesting point, is that one thing you don't need in a 1310 currency, right, is coins. They don't need them. They don't have them. So why would Allah be talking about a 20,000 coin? Global trust, they're doing all the things that get global trust. The view is, not just by me, but by investors, in my opinion, they're watching, they're quietly being careful. Iraq is being quietly careful, and they're being on time. And who talked about on time? Time frames. Al-Sudani has. I'm going to get to this so we don't take too much time this evening. I'll just say this. I have Japan completes the largest yen-funded project, yen, stable currency, SDR basket, right? And then interestingly enough, that's just a sidebar because we already know the euro's involved because that's the oil trade, right? But this is an additional add-on, which is the yen. They've been around for 12 years. And we talked about digital currencies and stuff, dinar, digital dinar. Here's a lead-in from JP Morgan. JP Morgan, this isn't about Iraq, but it's an outlier because where's the connection? You guys realize JP Morgan Chase is effectively a darling client from the Bank of England, who Iraq is going to Bank of England to get to the Bank of International Settlements. But yet JP Morgan's talking about using Ethereum and Bitcoin as collateral for loans. You can't make this stuff up, but you surely, if you pay attention, you can tie it in. You can go, whoa, interesting. So if they're doing it, well, digital dinar, right? So what if they start doing all these oil trades in digital dinar, whether it be in Basra for the fuel, for the diesel and gas, the yen is going to use, because that money is going to be used in yen. By the way, all the projects that were done in Basra were paid in yen. So all this new stuff that everybody says that they've been doing this for 1310, no, they haven't. They've been using euro. They've been using the yen. They've been using the dollar. Big difference, big difference. So anyway, Global Investment Bank, JP Morgan Chase, plans to allow institutional clients to use their Bitcoin and Ethereum holdings as collateral for loans by the end of the year. By the end of the year. That could be tomorrow. A move that significantly deepens Wall Street's integration with cryptocurrency market. Right? Oh, we don't do that anymore, sir. Bye-bye. Oh, we don't talk about the dinar. Bye. It's fun. It's so funny. Okay, JP Morgan, its stance on cryptocurrencies. It says here, recently Jamie Dimon, softened his stance somewhat while maintaining some skepticism, of course. During a JP Morgan investor conference in May, he says, smoking is not good for or appropriate, but I defend your right to smoke. Likewise, I defend your right to buy Bitcoin. Do whatever you want. Okay, JP Morgan isn't the only Wall Street bank doing digital assets. They go on and talk about the United States administration's pro-crypto stance, loosened regulatory restrictions, have helped banks. So they're setting the stage, basically, they're exploring Bitcoin lending, all these different things. It's an indirect relationship to the crypto collateralized loans. I don't know, think about the BIS Agora project, the Bank of England, like I talked about, the mention in the launch of the digital dinar, okay? JP Morgan, the darling, for instance. So this stuff is fascinating. But lastly, I'm going to get to is Al-Alaq, the tripartite budget included very large spending and a high level deficit. Okay, this is just a different version of it, but I want to get to, Al-Alaq said that the project to remove the zeros from the dinar is ongoing and planned. So you guys all know that. Pointing to the possibility of developments in this regard in the coming period. Okay, very vague. What are the goals and the importance of the conference? Well, we talk about electronic payments, and we're talking about a broad economic and social aspects related to the subject development and employment of modern financial technologies. Bitcoin and Ethereum are modern technologies. So are the other ones that I mentioned. Okay, and they have different utility, usefulness, if you will. But anyway, it says Al-Alaq, the issue of removing zeros from the Iraqi currency is a project that is still in place. So to those that say it's not, it's still in place. And this is 2 to 3 days ago, 2 days ago. And yes, I can be late a little bit, you guys, but like I said, I give comments that say, you know what, sometimes I tie in things that need to be addressed and be accurate. So it's still in place, it's being planned, and we will probably hear developments about it in the coming period. Okay, guess what he talks about? It says they're now planning in coordination between the government and the central bank to set rules for financial sustainability in Iraq, so there are no gaps or shortages in funding. I think that the program that the government and the central bank are currently focusing in on is to maximize non-oil revenues. We all can believe that, to avoid shocks in the Iraqi economy. And I think that the coming period will witness a lot of developments in this direction. The issue of financial sustainability now is an important and fundamental goal that we are all working on. Question, where has the 20,000 coin printing project reached? Coin. Why do you need coins? Because you got value. That's what I've been talking about for years. You talk about coins, you're talking about value. Al-Alaq, with the renewal of the zero elimination project, which is currently being prepared, the currency denominations will be restructured in general, including the 20,000 denomination. The article talks about coins. So that's what I have for you guys tonight. So if you guys like my content, hit the like button. Oh, and by the way, hit the like button and subscribe. Last thing I'm going to say is the question is, it is said that there is no longer obstacles to withdrawing oil revenues in cash. Oil revenues in cash. That's a lot of money, man. Oil revenues? Yes, there are no obstacles. Every day, we convert the quantities we receive in US dollars directly into Iraqi dinars to feed the Ministry of Finance and pay the dollars it receives for the dinar. So anyway, that's what we have. I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you for being with us. Hope you guys liked Copper in the beginning. He's a wonderful animal. We have the cats. He's a visitor. And those that you guys like dogs, I appreciate you guys for being here with us. Enjoy. Have a great night. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.